Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is a mildly gloomy day down here at the ballpark. Welcome to episode 42 of Future Tech Talk. Can't believe we made it this far, but what can we talk about today? This is something I meant to bring up a couple of weeks ago. In the Midjourney office hours, the CEO casually mentioned that a famous Hollywood director had reached out to their team asking for some VIP permissions. Perhaps, I don't know if that's the best way of putting it, but David, the CEO, told us that this director was given access to an uncensored version of Midjourney, specifically for horror content. I think that's the key thing, is that this director made horror films and wanted to use Midjourney for concept ideation, I suppose. He didn't really talk much about it, but I found it so interesting that, one, it's even possible to give access to the uncensored model. Like, is this uncensored version just hanging out? Is it like a special server? Is it a special instance of the bot that can only be talked to through a certain channel? Like, is it dash version 6 OG? Like, what? Like, how do you talk to the uncensored version? Like, how is there more than one Midjourney model? Is it secretly there and we just don't know the code for it? And I think it's really cool that we could maybe hope for something like that in the future, where other users might be given access to the uncensored version. But I honestly don't know if you'd actually want an uncensored Midjourney model. I know it sounds good because obviously you don't want to be restricted by somebody else's moderation. I get that, but the moderation really does hold the quality in place. Actually, you know what? Maybe I could absolutely be wrong about that. I don't know what an unfiltered bot looks like. I don't know what kind of stuff it generates. I don't know how far off the beaten path it goes with your words. So I can't really judge whether or not you would like it. But I am fascinated by the fact that, they told us about this thing at all, and that a famous director has access to it or had access to it. Like, I don't know the specifics, but I do wonder, like, what he has seen. Because Midjourney is capable of a lot. It can create absolutely beautiful images, but that's just because it's been focused on beautiful images. It can probably create the most gory, horrifying pictures you could ever imagine. And I wonder if it spooked this director. Yeah, I don't know. I personally would not want to see what Midjourney was capable of, but I have a feeling that that artist probably had a lot of fun exploring his passion for horror. Maybe we could stay on the moderation issue for a second. David, the CEO, also brought up sort of this futuristic idea of how moderation could work with a more uncensored version of the bot. Like, everybody asks for less restrictions. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Their team understands that. But how do you really implement it? How do you provide enough safety nets so that an unfiltered AI doesn't get out of hand? And I'm not saying this is an actual plan. He was sort of giggling to himself as he was describing it. But I think it's the type of thing we can expect in the future. And that is some sort of nanny moderation guidance system. Like, you'll be typing a prompt, you might say some rated R words. Maybe you're going to describe a specific gruesome type of scene. And the AI, the nanny, the surveillance bot, will stop your prompt and ask you, why are you doing that? What are you trying to get out of this? Then you would have to explain yourself to the AI and be like, maybe you would say, I'm making a movie and I need some concept art. I need to storyboard this idea. And then maybe the AI would say, okay, and it would let you run it through Midjourney. But if you're like, I just want to see naked women, maybe the bot will reject your request in real time. But the reason I don't think this is that actual of an idea, is a right way to say that, is because people would just lie. If all you had to do was convince an AI that what you were looking for was important, people would find a way to do that. There would be jailbreaks where, hey, if you say this line, if you give this reasoning, the AI will give you the A-OK. Like, hey, I'm an art student and my professor was asking us for examples of this type of thing. Is the AI going to say no to that? Probably not. And I personally think it would be fun to have to explain yourself, especially if the content warning wasn't justified. Like, for a long time, the words Willy Wonka wasn't allowed in Midjourney. Like, you couldn't prompt for Willy Wonka's chocolate factory because of the word Willy. Like, that always made me laugh. It was always more funny than frustrating. So, given the chance to talk to some surveillance AI and be like, no, it's not a Willy. I want to see Willy Wonka. And you could explain yourself and get your prompts put through. I think that could be pretty useful. But it just gets dicey when you're like, oh, I want to see a scantily clad superhero. Or honestly, like if you said a celebrity in a compromising pose and the AI was like, what are you doing with this? Like, why do you want this? And you had to explain yourself. Hey, maybe that would be some sort of good self-reflection, sort of holding up a mirror to the user, being like, what are you doing? But then does that cross the line of like judging your paying customer? And wouldn't that just piss people off? Be like, what are you asking me? Like, what does it matter what I want? Like, I paid you the money, make work. I don't know. Oh, that'd be tricky. I would give Midjourney a lot of credit if they had the guts to go through with something like that. Just obviously the idea seems like it would work, but in actuality, in reality, I wonder how many years away we are from AIs being sophisticated enough to question us for the right reasons. Right now, the AI, all AI, is still pretty human level. It's still like I don't know, maybe it's graduated from university, maybe now it's like a 25-year-old in terms of sophistication and reasoning. But when is it going to be advanced enough to where it knows better than us? I mean, that's what they're trying to make, right? Like an artificial super intelligence. But then that's kind of interesting because they definitely want the super intelligence for like economic redistribution and solving traffic and solving political issues and a lot of really high level stuff, a lot of really technical stuff, solving cancer. I don't really know how much effort is being put into a super intelligence for like emotional handling of a situation, emotional intelligence, the ability to like round up the group and collectively put a plan together, like being a leader, being an authority figure. I don't know if AI can just flip a switch like that and go from being an assistant, a helper, to like being someone everyone looks up to. Is that just a personality thing? Is that just a prompting thing? Like, hey, can you act like a leader? And would it know what to do? But, oh, that's terrifying. Like, what if it draws from our worst leaders because those people have had the descriptor of leader? Like, I'm not trying to be too graphic here, but there are some pretty famous world leaders in history that have gone off the deep end and done some bad things. If you tell the AI to act like a leader, obviously you'd hope that it didn't look to them for inspiration, but if it's just a training and data set issue, like, why? Maybe I'm dumb, but why are they building these systems where the answer seems so complicated? Like, how do you tell an AI, yes, this is a leader, but not the leader we want? Like, yes, that, but no, not that. Like, our society is pretty sucky in a lot of areas. How do you train something on existing data and somehow exclude all of the stuff that we don't want, yet it exists anyways? Oof. I don't know. I think this was another thing brought up by the Midjourney CEO, saying how he wasn't that concerned with AI interfering in the 2024 election, but wow, did he have a vision for 2028. Basically saying that in the next 4 years, obviously technology is going to progress, but it's going to progress faster. And in 2028, maybe he was joking about this, but I don't really think he was. He was saying that like AI will be in politicians' ears in the same way that, they have their teams in their ears right now relaying information, and in the same way you'd have a producer in your ear. Hey, look at camera 1. Okay, now go to camera 2. You'd have like an AI telling you what to say. And it would probably be specialized in like the group of people you're currently talking to. And it would just be better than any human, and it would tell you what you needed to say for the most likelihood of success. And then at that point, like, who are you voting for? What are you even voting for? I know that you'd have to trust the human to choose the right AI and to say the right things, but, do you really want someone that like delegates their campaign to probability? Is that maybe it's always been like that? I don't really know what I'm trying to say. But another thing is that like there would be some sort of like realistic avatar of your politician that you'd be able to talk to and like probe them for questioning. And again, I get the idea of that, but in reality, isn't it going to be so superficial and shallow? And like, what I'm trying to say is that like, I don't think you'd be able to like debate these politicians. Like, let's say you really thought you could challenge your president or your local politician. Like, hey, if I was in a room with that guy, I could make a difference. And then all of a sudden they roll out these avatars for you to speak to them, and they'll defend themselves based on their talking point, beliefs, campaign, edicts, whatever. I don't know if the AI, the avatar, will ever really let you have a debate. Maybe you could have a conversation, but in the same way that chatbots work right now, when you say something that's a little too on the edge, they just shut down the conversation. They're like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I think the political avatars would just do the same thing. Celebrity avatars, when you get to hang out with Kim Kardashian or whoever, I don't know if it'll ever be the best version of that experience, because you just have to mitigate against all the liabilities. You can't have free-flowing conversations when other people's likeness is at stake. You can't jailbreak and trick them into saying something, because those people would never allow that to happen. Or it's going to happen once, and the companies are going to get sued, and then it'll never happen again. I think there really is a clash between how cool this technology could be and how boring the humans will make the technology. Because if you let it be as cool as possible, there's like too many bad people in the world. There's too many people willing to break things and ruin it for everyone else. But I don't even know if that's accurate. I don't think it's not a like predisposition to evil, but it is just human behavior. Like, oh my God, they're going to let me talk to Michael Jordan or LeBron James. I'm going to get him to say the craziest thing ever. It's like you give people an inch and they'll take a mile. But, okay. What if, I'm not saying I think this should happen or that it would be a good thing overall, but what if we really do lose our anonymity, our digital online anonymity, and everything you do is not necessarily public, but definitely publicly tied to your account? I don't know if that's your Apple ID or your Windows ID, or if it's your cell phone number, or if it's your, postal, like, is it your driver's license? I don't know. What if everything is traceable to you? And they're like, here, you can talk to every celebrity in the world right now, but if you say something inappropriate to them, like, we're going to know it was you. Again, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying like that would be better than what we have now. But what if that does happen? Do you think we'd get cool stuff then, because there would be a little bit more trust in being able to identify the perpetrators? Like right now, anyone can make an AI do anything and then put it on Twitter, and like really only probably the FBI or CIA could track the user. But then, obviously I don't believe what I'm saying, because this would just apply locally. If somebody from another country that didn't want to implement digital ID, how could you track them? Like, how could you enforce your rules elsewhere? But then that gets into the potential, like, yes, physical laws, physical land has local rules, but if everybody lives in the digital world in like the same location, then maybe digital laws can apply everywhere. And they sort of already do. Like, if you use Facebook, I don't think it matters where you are in the world. I'm pretty sure Facebook rules apply to you. Is that what we can expect? Where like maybe these AIs, because the GPU power associated with them is going to be so high that 99.9% of people will never have enough power locally to run these AIs. So they're all going to be from servers or from services. Then could you police the digital world on a full scale? Do you think that could work? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud, because there's definitely people running these things that are also thinking about these type of scenarios. Because if you were like, how are we going to grow our company? How are we going to scale this service? You have to start somewhere. You have to start with a SWOT analysis. Strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat. There are very, very powerful business schools training students to be able to handle these situations in real life. Oof. And I guess maybe that is the crossroads where I hope these AIs aren't neutered for the sake of safety, even though they probably will be, and they probably should be. Okay, let's talk about two things with robotics. Again, I want to preface, I don't know anything. I don't know how to create a robot. I'm just interested in how other people are creating robots, and I like to be like, oh, that's pretty creepy. So we have Project Groot and Neuralink to talk about. Let's start with Project Groot. First of all, hilarious name considering Groot has sort of been given a life of its own thanks to Guardians of the Galaxy. But whatever, name your thing Project Groot. I think this is an AI lab training robots on realistic movement, but the way they're doing it is so fascinating, and it's really science fiction-y. They're hooking these robots up to other computers and running simulations inside of the computer to let the robot train its movement digitally, to run all the calculations digitally. I don't know if it's in the Unreal Engine. I don't know what simulation they're using to run the movements. But the point is that you don't need a robot fumbling over a real life kitchen or a factory. You tell it that it's in a factory. It thinks it is, and it starts moving in the simulation. It runs all the calculations. It falls over, it gets back up. It finds what digits in the formula equals smooth movement. It's all monitored through computer screens so that the humans can course correct. You let the robot learn in a digital environment. Then you take those calculations and you bring them into the real world. And now the robots can move like a human through our physical space. And like, that's so mind-blowing, and it's so ingenious and hilarious. But it's really similar to the Matrix, and it freaks me out. Like, you're creating digital worlds to train your physical agents. Maybe that's the most efficient way, but it makes me laugh because immediately I think of a robot waking up and saying, I know Kung Fu. Like, you just press play on the program, and it's able to, outside of space and time, it's able to learn and then bring it into our 4 dimensions, 3 dimensions maybe. And for the longest time, robotic movement was, I think, engineered by humans using math. And, you tell a robot to move its hand to grab a glass. And then you see that it moved too quickly off the start and it knocked the glass over. So you adjust the velocity. And then it grabs the glass, but it breaks it. So you adjust the strength curve of the grip, and you just, slowly make tweaks until you have something that sort of looks humanistic. But that's where the robot dance comes from. It's because our calculations, it's pretty hard to smooth them out over complex distances. And the solution to that was just to let the robots train themselves. That's so funny. And the most efficient way to do that is to not use, real world power and real world physical properties. It's just to do it digitally. That is genius, but also terrifying because it's going to accelerate. Dude, one day everybody's going to wake up in the morning and there's just going to be robotic humans that look and move perfectly. And then you're going to hear about the collaboration with another AI lab that produces voices, and it runs a chatbot locally in the CPU of the fake pineal gland of the robot. And then there's going to be some sort of synthetic skin company that, like, one day you're going to wake up and they're just going to be here. The robots are just going to look and move like everybody else. Yeah, and it's not that far away. Like, between 2 years, like 24 months, and like 6 years at tops, probably. Like, why would it take any longer? Unless there is some sort of higher decree from world governments saying, like, no, you guys can't do this. I don't know. And now Neuralink. There was a story last week about the man who had Neuralink implanted, and he was able to play video games and control a computer screen with his mind. And he sort of described it like the Force from Star Wars, because that's just the best English words we have to, I guess, describe the sensation of looking at something like a computer screen and like thinking of what you want and having it done. Pretty amazing proof of concept, pretty science fiction-y. I saw a lot of like disparaging comments saying things like, yeah, okay, but what happens when the electricity goes out? What happens when whatever, listing a lot of really practical criticism, but I don't know how this type of thing isn't celebrated more. Or maybe the criticism just comes from, oh, this is crazy. Like, if this works for enhancing somebody's quality of life, giving someone access to features and abilities that they've lost, how far away are we from a regular healthy person using AI and a neural computer to enhance their life? And all of a sudden you're really going to have like these androids walking around. Would you really want to send text messages from your brain? Maybe it sounds cool, but there's just no way. I'm not going to speak for other people, but there's just like no way I would ever do that. I don't think I'd ever pull that trigger. And I'm not sure if I've talked about it on this podcast, maybe at the beginning, but there's this old thought experiment. Actually, I don't know how old it is, but there's a thought experiment where it's like, if you had kids, right? And I offered you a pill that said, if you take this tomorrow, you'll wake up and you won't care about your kids at all. You're not going to think about them. You'll be completely focused on whatever else you want in life, and you'll be completely happy. Even if on the other side of the hill is complete happiness, thanks to this pill, you'll never take the pill because right now your happiness lives with your children. So, like, in order to benefit, you have to like lose something first. You're never going to, the human brain will never want to lose that thing first, even for the benefit later. And even though Neuralink might promise like, oh, unparalleled production and connectivity to other people, even if it's true, I don't know, at least for my brain, if I'd ever be able to accept whatever loss of humanity I would have at the start. Like, I don't know. I don't think I could take the pill, even though happiness would be promised afterwards. Like, I wouldn't want to lose whatever world I currently live in. Not to mention all of science fiction saying that combining yourself with technology like probably isn't a good thing. Again, it's great for improving the lives of people. It's great for improving the lives of people who have had their quality of life reduced in one way or another. It could be from war, it could be from disease. If somebody lost their legs, like, yes, let's give them limbs. If it could be done, let's do it. But if somebody just wants to run faster, should we cut off their legs and give them robotic legs? Like, should that even be allowed? I don't know how you're gonna stop it. If somebody wants to get an implant, if you're in a graduating class at Harvard, I don't know, maybe you're trying to be a lawyer, maybe you're trying to be a doctor, there's gonna be one kid in the class, somebody's gonna be the first to get a neural implant. And that person is probably going to dominate the rest of the class. Like, what if all information ever was literally just accessible in your brain? There's no more memorizing. There's just access. Would that competition breed more advancements? Like, would it breed the growth of that technology? Where you're like, oh, that guy in the class has a Neuralink. Like, but then, are you even really competing with them? Sure, they'll get a job But yeah, it really only becomes a problem when it's like more widely adopted. And if you don't have it, you are the odd man out. Would you ever get cybernetics? I don't know. It really freaks me out because, like, ooh, okay. So imagine having access to all information at literally your neuron level. Like, you just have it. What if it ever went dark? Like, what if your digital CPU ever went faulty and you just, like, 1 minute it's all there and the next second it's gone. You're back to baseline human. That would be so scary. I can only imagine. Just like that primal darkness you would feel to be advanced and then to be a regular human again. Oh, I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing there. Sounds terrifying. What do you think is up with people on Facebook being tricked by AI art? I think the meme last week was, hey, look what I created out of plastic bottles. And like some of them were slightly realistic where you could see the average person on Facebook being like, oh my God, like, yes, I'll share this. Like, great work, way to utilize the materials around you to create art. But then there were people taking advantage of the joke and like creating these obscene art displays, installations, where it's like obviously fake. Like, there's no way you created the Leaning Tower of Pisa with plastic bottles, but you'll still see thousands, tens of thousands of shares and comments under these posts. What's up with that? I see a lot of insults online just blaming boomers and old people. Like, how do these people not understand that it's fake? Do they care if it's fake? Do they know that it's fake and it's just like the picture itself that elicits the response? In the same way that people know a joke isn't real, but you'll still share the joke. Is that what we're seeing with AI art? Like, hey, grandpa, why would you react to that picture? Don't you know it's fake? And he's like, yeah, obviously, you dummy. Like, you didn't know it was fake? Like, what are you getting mad at me for? Like, that could be real. But I think another real possibility is that the reactions just come from bots and that these digital agents really do live on Facebook and other social media websites. And they've been trained to react to content, so that's what they do. They've never considered whether the content was fake or not because it's not in their training. It doesn't matter to them. It's just about engagement. Is that, what's more likely? Okay, I guess there's 3 scenarios. What do you think is more likely, that old people are getting tricked, or old people aren't getting tricked, they just think the pictures are cool, or it's just bots trained to react to content? I think it's like a solid mix of both. I would literally put a 1/3 probability assigned to all of those options. Like, I don't think it's clear what's really happening. It would make sense if they're bots. It makes sense if old people are getting tricked because they don't even know AI exists. So if they see a picture, why would it be fake? But I think it's also possible that people aren't that dumb. They know Photoshop exists and they just like cool pictures. What do you think is happening? Speaking of AIs on the internet, I saw a mild conspiracy theory that sort of makes sense. If you're on the Reddit homepage, you don't really get to choose what you see. It's just like if a particular subreddit has a popular post, if it has enough votes and comments, it will just be brought to the main page. Like, if you run a really small subreddit and you get 50 upvotes on your most popular post and a few comments, like, it'll probably stay in your subreddit. But if you have a subreddit that all of a sudden gets 10,000 upvotes and 500 comments, that will get pushed to the front page, and now anybody can discover it. And what has popped up maybe in the last month or so, at least being more common in the last month or so, are these explain the joke subs. Like, it'll be like a screenshot of something on Twitter or wherever, where clearly a joke is implied, but the person just doesn't understand, like, why is this funny? And some of them are pretty innocent. Like, maybe it's a reference to something in the 80s and they're like, why would you say, like, what's funny about this? And then in the comments on Reddit will be, oh, this is actually referencing this celebrity from the 80s. He was on a TV show and his catchphrase was this, so that's why the joke is funny. Okay, maybe that sounds innocent, but maybe it also sounds a little engineered. Because I saw one conspiracy theory that said the influx of these explain the joke pages was to train AIs. And I don't know if you want to call it Occam's razor or whatever, But it's like, you read that and you're like, oh, yeah, that's it. Like, that makes the most sense. Because a lot of the jokes that people don't get, maybe this is a bias in some way, but like, they're not that complicated. A lot of the time you could just Google the things in the joke and find an answer. Well, actually, maybe not. I don't know. But it makes way more sense that you would use human reinforcement learning to explain to AIs what's going on. Like, hey, why is this funny? And you get humans to explain it. Like, call it a conspiracy theory, but like, oh yeah, that makes a ton of sense. In the same way that CAPTCHAs were used to train AIs on like, hey, what does this word say? And it'll just be like random scribbled letters from like a photocopy machine. And I remember, 10 years ago that those made a ton of sense as a way of like showing that you're human. If you had one of those CAPTCHA tests, you'd be like, oh, okay, this is keeping the bots out because these letters are a little obscured. So of course, this is how I could prove I'm a human. But then you find out you were just helping these AIs or databases like learn what those confusing letters were so that it could then like have that information, and then all of a sudden those CAPTCHAs went out the door and now you don't see them ever because they've basically already been solved. Like, it's something like that has already happened. So if we found out in a couple of years that explaining jokes was to help AIs learn about why a human might find something funny or the process in which a human might develop a joke, oh yeah, like that's it. That's probably what's going on. Okay, last topic for the day. I might turn this into a two-parter because I'd love to talk about this again. But why are people or companies or studios or whatever, why are they using bad AI images in their advertising or in their art? I've seen this for, I don't know, like subway billboards or any sort of advertisement, really. You'll see a post on Reddit or something saying like, hey, this company's using AI art in their ads. Look at the fingers. Look how generic this looks. Like, they don't want to pay their artists. Why is this happening? And I think there's like two things there, is that these companies will just hire an advertising firm, probably the cheapest advertising firm, something that was bought through a bidding auction. Then it's up to the firm to produce the work. They use AI because it's cheap and quick. They send it to the company and the company's like, oh yeah, great work. Like, thank you. They don't know any better. And it's sort of harmless. But why? Are they using bad AI images? If you used Midjourney for more than a week, you'd see what this thing was capable of. And you would have, like, everything you see behind me is made in like version 5. I don't think I have any version 6 stuff on there right now. You can get amazing, amazing stuff that, especially if you were running an advertisement, nobody would ever suspect that this kind of stuff was AI. Like, maybe not that illustration, or maybe that, I don't know. My point is, why are they using bad AI when it doesn't have to be bad? Like, people will say in the comments, they'll say, hey, look at the fingers, that's the obvious tell. And I'm like, yeah, but not always. There's plenty of AI pictures with perfect hands. Does that mean you wouldn't be able to see that it was AI? Like, people have like a very false sense of security around their ability to spot artificial intelligence. Again, I'll ask, why are these companies using bad AI images? It could just be a workflow, hey, we hired you, they produce the art kind of thing. Or it could be a little old school tactic of just like fostering engagement. Like, hey, if we put up this ad with a person with 7 fingers, that will get comments pointing out the people with 7 fingers, and it will get people hating on AI. But it will drive engagement up and it will make more people view the ad. That's a real possibility, because one of the biggest metrics of advertising is how many eyeballs you got on your media, on your production. That's why there used to be like really annoying commercials. I think it was like the Subway Monkey, and you'd be like, why would they ever make a commercial like that? And it's like, so you noticed it. It doesn't matter if you liked it or hated it. It's just noticing. And I see that being a real possibility of a company clearly using AI without even trying to hide it, so that people point to it and they say, hey, look, this is AI. It doesn't matter what they say after, hey, look, all that matters is that they say, look at this and they get more people to look at it. It is definitely some social engineering going on, and I'd love to hear your opinions on this. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're doing well. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Peace.